This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. My name is David. I am 42 years old, a father of two, and until recently, I believed I had a solid marriage. For nearly 2 decades, I thought I knew my wife, Lisa. She was beautiful, charming, and everyone admired how youthful she looked, often mistaking her for someone in her 20s. But behind that perfect exterior, there was something dark, something I was too blind to see until it was too late. It all started with a rabbit. Emily and Jake, my two kids, had found a small wild bunny near the edge of our property. Their excitement was contagious. Their little hands cupped around the tiny creature, their eyes wide with wonder as they begged me to let them keep it. "Please, Daddy, can we keep him?" Jake pleaded, his voice almost trembling with hope. I wanted to say yes, but we already had pets, and I knew it wouldn't be fair to the bunny. So I crouched down and gently explained, "He has a family somewhere out there, buddy. We have to let him go so he can find his way home." They were disappointed but understood. The compromise was simple. We would release him somewhere safe in the thick bushes at the back of our land where he could hide from predators. But I had to work. So I asked Lisa to do it. I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? She was my wife, the mother of my children. I trusted her. When I returned to my desk, I barely had time to settle in before I heard screaming. The kind of screaming that makes a parent's blood run cold. I bolted to the front door just as my children ran inside, tears streaming down their faces. Behind them, Lisa strolled in casually, rolling her eyes. "It's not that bad," she said, her voice annoyingly indifferent. I knelt in front of Emily, who was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "What happened?" Her words came out in broken sobs. "Mama made us let the bunny go in the middle of the yard, and a hawk took it." I felt something inside me snap. I turned to Lisa. "You let them see that?" she scoffed. "It was just a bunny. They'll get over it." "I told you to take it to the bushes," I said, my voice dangerously low. She shrugged. "It would have been caught eventually." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my anger in check. For days, the kids refused to speak to her. They locked themselves in their rooms. They cried themselves to sleep, and then they started calling her something behind her back. Bunny killer. I tried to mediate. I tried to get them to stop. But the truth was, deep down, I was angry too. Not just about the bunny, but about the way she dismissed it, the way she dismissed their feelings. That should have been my first clue, but I didn't see it. Not yet. It wasn't until my daughter came to me, weeks later, with a secret she had been too afraid to share, that I realized the rabbit was just the beginning. "Daddy," she whispered, her little hands clutching my shirt. "Mama has a special friend. He comes over when you're not home." My world tilted. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "A man," she said, looking down. "She tells us not to tell you." And just like that, my entire life began to unravel. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My own daughter, only 5 years old, was telling me something that shattered everything I believed in. I had to stay calm for her, for Jake, for myself. "Emily," I said softly, kneeling so we were eye level, "you're not in trouble, sweetheart. I just need you to tell me the truth. When does this man come over?" She bit her lip, hesitant. "On Saturdays when you go to work." Saturdays. Every Saturday. I swallowed hard. My mind raced through the past few months. Lisa had been distant, moody, quick to snap at me and the kids. She always had some excuse. Stress, hormones, needing space, but now I saw it clearly. She wasn't stressed. She was hiding something. And my daughter had just exposed her. I hugged Emily tightly. "Thank you for telling me, baby. You did the right thing." She nodded, looking relieved, then ran off to play with Jake. I sat there stunned, my hands clenched into fists. The air around me felt thick, suffocating. I needed proof. That night, after Lisa went to bed, I stayed up researching hidden cameras. Within an hour, I had ordered a set to be delivered to my office. If I was wrong, no one would ever know. But if I was right... A week later, the cameras arrived. I installed them carefully, late at night, while Lisa was out with her friends. It didn't take long. The first Saturday I saw him, a man younger than her. He walked in like he owned the place, kissed her, touched her in ways that made me want to punch my laptop screen. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to watch, forcing myself to accept the truth. But then something else happened. Something worse. As they sat on the couch, he placed a hand on her stomach. "Are you sure it's mine?" he asked. My stomach dropped. Lisa laughed. "Of course it is. David and I haven't slept together in months." I closed my laptop. I had seen enough. Rage burned inside me, hot and uncontrollable. I wanted to storm into the house, throw her out, make her pay for every lie she had told me. But I didn't. Instead, I called my sister. When she picked up, her voice was groggy. "David, it's late. What's wrong?" I took a deep breath. "Lisa's cheating on me." Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Are you sure?" "I have video proof," she cursed under her breath. "Do you want me to come over?" "No," I said, "but I need your help." And just like that, a plan started forming. The next day, I bought a GPS tracker and placed it in Lisa's car. A week later, my sister and her husband followed her. She wasn't meeting her friends. She was driving 20 miles out of town to a motel. They recorded everything. But the worst part wasn't just the affair. It was what she said. They sent me a video. In it, Lisa and her lover stood in the motel parking lot. He rubbed her belly. "What are we going to do?" he asked. "It's only going to get more obvious." Lisa sighed. "We have time. I'll figure something out." He hesitated. "What about your kids?" Her response was instant. "David can have them." I felt sick. This woman, the woman I had loved for years, the mother of my children, was willing to throw them away like they meant nothing. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. This wasn't just an affair. This was betrayal on every level. I wasn't going to let her win. I was going to destroy her. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her voice echoing in my mind. David can have them. Like our children were nothing more than a burden. Like the life we built together meant nothing. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I wanted the best, the meanest, the kind of lawyer who turned divorce cases into battlefields. When I walked into his office, he barely looked up from his paperwork. "Mr. Thompson, right?" "Yes." He glanced at me over his glasses. "What can I do for you?" I took out my laptop and placed it on his desk. "I need you to ruin my wife." He raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. I pressed play. He watched the footage in silence. The affair, the conversations, the proof that the child she was carrying wasn't mine. When it ended, he sat back, laced his fingers together, and smirked. "I can work with this." I shook his hand. "Good." The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, meetings, and quiet rage. I kept up appearances. Lisa didn't suspect a thing. If anything, she was happier than ever. When I told her I'd be away for a business trip, she barely looked up from her phone. "Cool," she said, smiling. "I hope it goes well." She didn't even ask where I was going. She was too busy texting him. I made sure the cameras were rolling before I left. That night, she called her lover over. They laughed. They kissed. They joked about me. "He's so boring," Lisa said, curled up in the arms of a man 10 years younger than her. "I feel old just being around him." "And the kids?" he asked. She waved a hand dismissively. "They like him more anyway. I'll let him keep them." I nearly threw my laptop across the room. This was the mother of my children. This was the woman I had spent almost 20 years of my life with. The next morning, I made my move. I went home, sent the kids to stay with my sister, and waited. At exactly 2 p.m., a sheriff knocked on our door. Lisa opened it, confused. Then she saw the envelope in his hand. Her face paled. "Mrs. Thompson?" the sheriff asked. Yes?" He handed her the divorce papers. "You've been served." I watched from my office, camera rolling as she ripped the envelope open. Her eyes scanned the pages. Then she screamed, "David!" She stormed into my office, waving the papers in my face. "What the hell is this?" I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. "Divorce." She gaped at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "You can't do this to me," I smiled. "I already did." Her face twisted in rage. "I'll take everything. I'll take the house, the kids, your money." I stood up, towering over her. "No, Lisa, you won't." She went still. How much do you know? She whispered. I leaned in, lowering my voice. Enough! She stumbled back. This house is half mine. No, I said smoothly, it's not. I paid for everything, the mortgage, the bills. Your name's not even on the deed. Her eyes darted around the room. She was panicking. Good. She tried one last trick. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Hello? She gasped, forcing tears into her voice. My husband is threatening me. I think he's going to hurt me. I watched her with amusement. She thought she was smart. She had no idea I was smarter. When the cops arrived, she ran into their arms, playing the victim perfectly. Until I pulled out my laptop. Until I pressed play. The officers watched as Lisa sat in our bedroom, phone in hand, smirking as she planned to lie about me. They saw the video of her laughing about ruining my life. One of the officers turned to me. Mr. Thompson, do you want to press charges for false accusations? I didn't even hesitate. Yes. The moment they pulled out the handcuffs, Lisa lost it. She screamed, begged, cried. But it was too late. As they dragged her away, she locked eyes with me, hatred burning in her gaze. I just smiled. Goodbye, Lisa. She was gone. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in years, the house felt empty, but it was a different kind of emptiness. Not the kind that weighed on your chest, making it hard to breathe. This emptiness was liberating, peaceful. I sat down at the kitchen table, exhaling slowly. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, not from regret, but from the sheer adrenaline of what had just happened. Lisa was gone, and she wasn't coming back. But this wasn't over yet. I had the upper hand, but I knew she wasn't the type to accept defeat easily. She'd fight, she'd drag this divorce through the mud, clawing for anything she could get. I wasn't going to let her. The next morning, I met with my lawyer again. How'd she take it? He asked, smirking as he sipped his coffee. She called the cops on me, I replied flatly. His eyebrows shot up. Seriously? I slid the thumb drive across the desk. Watch this. He plugged it into his laptop, leaned forward, and watched. I watched him as he did. First, his expression was neutral, then his mouth twitched. Then he let out a low whistle and leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. Jesus Christ, he muttered. She really tried to frame you. I nodded. He looked at me, a new glint in his eye. This is good, really good. This isn't just an affair case anymore. She committed perjury, filed a false police report, and let's not forget the fact that she abandoned her kids the moment she thought she could get away with it. What's our next move? I asked. He grinned. We make sure she walks away with nothing. Lisa spent a night in jail before she was bailed out. The next morning, her parents showed up at my house. I knew they were coming before they even knocked. I saw their car pull into the driveway. Her father was a tall man, built like a brick wall, and had always been intimidating. When he got out of the car, his hands were clenched into fists, his face red with fury. When I opened the door, he didn't waste time. What the hell did you do to my daughter? He demanded. I folded my arms across my chest. Ask her what she did to me. She told us her side, he shot back. She said you set her up, that you... Did she tell you she was cheating? I interrupted. He flinched. I tilted my head. Did she tell you she's pregnant with another man's child? His jaw tightened. Did she tell you she tried to have me arrested? Silence. I sighed, stepped back, and gestured for them to come inside. You might want to sit down for this, I said. They did, and then I showed them the videos, the affair, the motel, the conversations, the proof that she had planned to throw away her own children. Her mother covered her mouth with a trembling hand, eyes brimming with tears. Her father went completely still. When the last video ended, he exhaled sharply and looked away. We didn't raise her to be like this, he muttered. Apparently she was always like this, I said coldly. I just never saw it. Her father stood up abruptly. Excuse me. He stepped outside, pulled out his phone, and called Lisa. I watched from the window. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw the way his face twisted with anger. At some point, he put her on the speaker. Dad, please, you have to believe me. Lisa's voice was shrill, desperate. I did, he said, until I saw the videos. Now, I don't even know who you are. Please, just let me explain. No, he snapped. You're no longer welcome in our home. Dad, you're no longer our daughter. Then he hung up. Lisa called back. He ignored it. When he came back inside, his face was pale, his expression blank. If there's anything we can do to help with the kids, he said, his voice thick, just let us know. I nodded, and just like that, Lisa lost her family too. Bye. A few days later, she returned to the house to gather the rest of her things. She didn't come alone. Her affair partner, let's just call him AP, was with her. I stood by the door, arms crossed, watching as she packed. My sister and brother-in-law were there too, just in case she tried anything. She didn't speak to me, but when the kids got home, Emily ran toward her, eyes hopeful. Mommy. Lisa didn't even look at her. She just kept packing. Emily's little face crumbled. I clenched my jaw and walked over, kneeling beside her. Come on, sweetheart, I said gently, leading her away. Let's go get some ice cream. She sniffled, but nodded. Before leaving, Lisa ripped the wedding photos off the wall, throwing them onto the floor. The glass shattered. She looked at me, waiting for a reaction. I gave her nothing. When she realized I wasn't going to take the bait, she grabbed the last of her bags and walked out the door. I didn't stop her. Chapter 10. After she was gone, I scheduled a DNA test for the kids. I had to be sure the results came back. They were mine. It was the first good news I had received in months. I also got tested for STDs. Thankfully, I was clean. But just when I thought she was finally out of my life, Lisa showed up again. One evening, I heard a knock at the door. When I opened it, she stood there, looking exhausted, disheveled. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. She crossed her arms. Look, I know we both made mistakes, I laughed. Oh, we both made mistakes? Tell me, Lisa, what was my mistake? She hesitated. I should have been honest with you sooner. About which part? I asked. The cheating, the pregnancy, the fact that you were willing to abandon our kids? She flinched. I want a clean divorce, she said finally. 50-50 split. I leaned against the doorframe. So let me get this straight, I said. You cheated, you lied, you tried to frame me, and now you want me to just hand you half of everything? She lifted her chin. I have rights. Not in this state, you don't. Her confidence wavered. You looked up the laws, didn't you? I said. Her silence was my answer. I smirked. I'm not settling. You'll get what the court gives you, and you won't like it. Her face twisted with anger. You betrayed me, I continued, voice even. You betrayed our kids, your parents, everyone who ever cared about you. Then I slammed the door in her face. She didn't come back after that. The divorce took months. She tried to fight it. She tried to delay it. But in the end, the court saw the truth. She lost custody. She lost the house. She walked away with nothing but her car and some savings. The affair partner didn't even bother showing up in court. When the divorce was finalized, she packed up and left town. I never saw her again. One evening, months later, I sat on the porch, watching the kids play. Emily ran up to me, eyes bright. Daddy, do you think the bunny Ollie ever made it home? I looked at her, then at the horizon, feeling lighter than I had in years. Yes, sweetheart, I said. I think he found a much better place. Thank you for reading this story. It's not just about betrayal or divorce. It's about realizing that sometimes the person you love the most is the one who can hurt you the deepest. It's about learning to see the red flags, to trust your instincts, and to stand up for yourself when someone tries to take advantage of your kindness. Sometimes life forces us to let go of people we once cherished, no matter how much history we share with them. But in the end, walking away from toxicity isn't a loss, it's freedom. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my situation? Do you think I handled things the right way? Have you ever experienced a betrayal like this? Leave a comment below, share your story, and let's talk about it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more real-life stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Also, If you think someone needs to hear this story, share this video with them. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next one.